Hey guys, Captain Foley and Commander Calkins are back yet again. It's Team Trekyards. Time for another podcast. Now, this is a pretty exciting time for Star Trek.
Mm,
We just got a teaser trailer for the new series, and the new Star Trek Beyond trailer just came out, which I have to admit makes me want to watch the movie.
pretty much. Summation over and done with. Yeah, brand new trailer hit,
Mhm.
especially with I think it was as the final piece of that big fan event they did, and saw it yesterday. Saw the full version on the big monitor today, and it's good. It's a good trailer.
Yeah, it's better than the first one for sure.
Well,
It makes me
that's worth
really
going back one step though. So the first trailer came out what 5 months ago. First thing we really saw. Just
yep.
reiterate briefly what was your thought about that?
Well, not impressed.
Mm-hmm.
It if it's been thrown around Fast and Furious in Space, with which
Mm-hmm.
Justin, the director, does is not he didn't wasn't happy with that.
Mm.
But I mean, with that initial trailer, that's what it felt like. We had a motorcycle jump, we had a bunch of fist fights. Nothing really Star Trekky in that trailer. This
Nothing of
one
any
just
substance.
exactly, yeah. And this one kind of just screams, they're trying to really get the fans excited. So I think they did a fantastic job with the new one.
Mm.
What was your thought about that first trailer?
Yeah, I mean, I think my big thing, I think we even talked about it at some point, was wait and see. It showed some
Oh yeah,
stuff,
absolutely.
didn't really show any story. You got a sense of at least the footage, a little bit of humor. I mean, again, we had low expectations based on the previous two films. We knew the universe they'd set. We expected a very JJ feel. This didn't disappoint in that, but it certainly wasn't something we were looking forward to specifically. And
Mhm.
then this trailer came out, and we know that Simon Pegg and the director, as you said, both were not overly impressed with the last one, which really puts into perspective, that's an odd thing to make a trailer that your two biggest people don't approve of, or at least don't enjoy. It doesn't represent the film. I know that the idea for the last trailer was it was meant to be in front of Star Wars for a much more broad audience, so it's just to do the visuals. I think this trailer certainly, if you're not a Star Trek fan, I guess you haven't got the investment. It looks a bit more generic because you're not getting the same sense of fun from this new trailer the other one had. But there's so much more meat for someone who cares. This one has. But anyway, so let me know the mindset when do you first see this trailer yesterday? But what was your first impression? And then yeah, take us through some of your thoughts of this brand new one, brand new one.
Yeah, my first thoughts were okay. I'm going into it going, all right. Well, let's just see what this is
Mm-hmm.
because low expectations and all that jazz. But I was I was actually mesmerized through the whole thing and
Mm.
sat there and stared at the screen. So much stuff visually going on
Mm.
that I had to rewatch it. I've
Mm-hmm.
rewatched it a few times now just to
Mm-hmm.
catch the little idiosyncrasies.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm excited for it, which is odd for me. I'm really looking forward to seeing this in theater and learning like what the storyline's about because you
Mm-hmm.
can't really speculate on what we've seen. They haven't given away too many key points
That's
storyline
golden.
wise.
Yeah, they've done a good
Yeah,
job with that.
maybe they've given away a lot of visual special effects things that are
Mm.
going to be really big in the movie,
Yeah.
but I'm fine with that because I have no idea what the story is going to be. So I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, I think I was more excited about this given how the reaction was to the last one with the people behind the scenes. Like I knew this one's probably going to do something really good, and they have a lot
Hmm.
riding on it. But I'm kind of positive about the new one. I think it could be really interesting. I think the direction they're going is probably good things. But I mean, just the Franklin itself, and just those set photos have made me more excited. Just that in itself,
Hmm.
and so I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And I watched this, and there's so many visual things I really, really, really liked about this trailer. And I've made some screenshots, and I want to talk about a couple of them specifically, and I'm sure you have a few yourself. Specifically, just like, that is great, that is great, that is great. And it's so nice to see elements that I think are great, because in the last couple of films, Thing of Into Darkness, I didn't like the Starbase, I didn't like the D4 specifically, I didn't like every cool thing I try and bring in, I'm like, practice in orbit. It's like all these things, I was like, But in this film, I've so many things that they've added. It's like yes, 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 and that is such a great sign that they're either taking it back or have the sort of the right art team trying to do the right thing because it's not the hardest thing to make Trek, and
Yeah.
they're just going in the right direction. I think so. I'm really excited. But I loved it. I thought it was a really good trailer. I think it showed a lot, but didn't show a lot, and it felt. I think I said a few minutes ago. It felt meaty. It felt as if something was actually going on. And I think
Mhm.
we'd sort of know the rough story by now. They get blowed up. They're on the planet. They escape. They attack the space station. That's pretty much the story. But I think there's gonna be a lot to that. I think Simon Pegg, he's not a daft writer. I just watched one of his films, a day or two ago. It's like that's a great script. It's funny. It's interesting. It's entertaining. Has good stuff in it. So just trusting him, is pretty. I think I'm thoroughly impressed with this direction, and I think that
Yeah,
if if the film is this trailer plus the substance that it's promising, then it could be easily the best out of three. Plus signify a great new direction where I'd want to see a fourth. It's like, oh no, let's see him go talk to the Tellarites. Let's see him go to a Romulan arc, or I guess the Romulan. Let's
Mhm.
see him do a Klingon arc. Let's proper Klingon arc. It's like, oh, let's see him do things because it's interesting again. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the feel of this one should have been the way that I felt about the first one.
Hmm. Yeah.
But anyway,
Well,
let's talk about this one.
this one's
Specifically.
probably a Star Trek trailer.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. The first scene of the Enterprise swooping in, and you see the brand new impulse engine at the back that was just installed at the end of the last movie after it got destroyed practically by the Vengeance. I mean, that's a great Star Trek moment in and of itself.
Hmm.
Not the best ship, obviously, in my opinion, but
Although I
um,
find I'm getting used to it because I have to.
yeah, yeah. Um, but the voiceover is really.
Dad joined Starfleet because he believed.
I appreciate the voiceover. It gets you excited, and I like the way they did that.
Everything in
So-
this is so nicely pitched.
Mhm.
That's just clever, and it's so slow, but every imagery is good. And Kirk looks so much older in this trailer. Like you feel his. I think he's not looking like Shatner. I think he's even maybe pushing further away from Shatner in the look, but that's fine. But he's definitely looking older, which is good.
And speaking of how the characters look, you notice the higher collars, the more formal kind of looking uniforms.
Hmm.
I don't know if I like that.
Well, they'll be
It's
in the
kinda
other. They'll be in other uniforms a lot, I think.
Oh, probably, yeah. I mean, it looks more formal and more military, but I kind of actually preferred the ones from the first movie because it looked more TOS inspired, but small thing.
Although my first big thing in the trailer that I really liked was their warp FTL effect.
Yeah.
Like we've seen and again they can retroactively cancel their own canon, as it were. A tunnel, but here's the Enterprise ripping through space, visually interesting. I'm totally fine with that because you can say it's going through subspace. It's making an impression. It looks fast but not stupid. Like it looks sciencey and interesting. I really like that effect.
It does, but it doesn't say warp speed to me. From all the
Yeah,
warp
but they
speed
don't go to warp,
effects
do
we've
they?
seen over
They
the
don't go
years.
to warp. They say punch it. I know they did that in one of the films as well, but they go through a tunnel. Like this is a severe
True.
improvement for a non-warp society.
Yeah.
I just love it's bending space, and it's really visually interesting. Like that is just a good idea, and that was the
Yeah,
first
it
idea I thought was
Yeah, it looks like a great combination of breaking the sound barrier effect that jets do, and it even looks fluid like water. So I mean, it's a cool effect, like they're skipping on a pond almost. Yeah, it's an interesting effect, but as we end up saying with most things, JJ, it's not really Star Trekky.
But I think at this point, third film in, it's got its own distinct style and its own set of rules, and I'm absolutely fine with that. Which leads into the next big thing, where we can see it either a docking bay, a space dock, or just a tunnel into this big space station. Now, if you take it as what it's sort of presented as, a docking, dry dock, cool design, works great for me. It's a great JJ version of that. Looks great. Great visual. Really like that.
But again, we don't know whether that's Federation or some kind of alien thing they're entering.
Well,
I mean, we take it as it appears in the trailer.
It is Federation because there's Federation of Planets circle with the stars on the left hand side.
Oh, I must have missed that.
I think that is. Well, it's a big circle. It looks blue.
Oh, there we go. The UFP.
Probably is. Yeah, but I think this is the same space station based on the visuals, which is were filmed in Mumbai, which has that lady who got brought into the cast as the president. So I'm assuming this is the
Yeah.
space station headquarters. But I'm just saying this looks great. Like, I'm absolutely happy with that visual.
Yeah, it is a cool space stocky kind of design. Don't know what it is exactly, but eager to see that for sure. Okay, the next scene I gotta talk about is where right after Scotty like couples the power thing, but I'm sure it's totally unrelated. The docking clamps releasing from the top of the Enterprise. I mean, that's a great shot of the saucer. You get to see the phaser ball turrets there. I mean, that's very Star Trek to me. I like that. I like that shot a lot.
Yeah, it's very real.
No complaints. No complaints there.
Yeah, it's very real. It's very, makes sense.
And we always hear docking clamps have been disengaged or all moorings clear, but you never really see it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool that they added that. I like that.
We did see similar-ish things to the Into Darkness, I believe, but this is definitely a cool new visual.
Yeah.
The next thing that really stands out to me, though, is when, and I don't think we should go through necessarily the entire trailer because everyone can see it themselves, but there's a great shot where it's zooming past the space station and it's this incredible fisheye style view.
Yep.
I mean, that's a ballsy shot. That feels like the Fast and Furious director saying, let's make it good, let's make it different, let's make it interesting. This is like, hey, good visuals are good visuals. And that's a weird ass shot, but it's an interesting, I like all credit to them, and it certainly looks interesting. And if it's zooming this far, crazy, love it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, it's a very dynamic shot for Star Trek, and I kind of wish I could see the refit in other ships in that kind of shot as well. Problem with that shot for me, though, again, the engines are too close together.
Well,
it exemplifies it with that curve.
Yeah, but it's heavily distorted though. Like, none of the dimensions are right.
I know it is, but they're already too close together, and that just makes it look worse.
Yeah, like I say, it's meant to be like GoPro footage, like space GoPro.
Yeah.
And it go from the space station, which again looks great, but we'll get to that in a minute. And the whole swarm thing was a great idea, I think. Destroy the Enterprise, that's fine. But we'll have to...
how do you defend against something like that? I love how Kirk's like, what the hell is that? Because you're basically, as a captain, you'd be screwed. There's nothing you can do. No real strategy is going to prevent the swarm from destroying your ship.
Well, it's kind of the Borg approach, but if they were fighters and faster. They just keep on coming, and you can't stop them. And the escape pods, cool, great how they're done. Come out of the hold, happy with that. I think we'll have to see this in the film because it's obviously a pretty big thing. The fact they're showing it so dramatically, this is the sort of damage to a ship that you've pretty much never seen before, and we do see it completely annihilated later on. Apart from the source of destruction in Star Trek 3, this is it dead, and that's so interesting to set that tone so clearly in a trailer.
Because that bottom shot where the swarm is just taking out the secondary hull,
beautiful.
Like, that's devastating. Yeah,
crazy shot.
I'm gonna print that and frame it and put it on my wall. Best moments from Star Trek history. No, I'm just kidding. I had to. Sorry, guys.
And then later on in the trailer, there's a great shot visually where the saucer of the colony Enterprise is on the planet and it's smoking and it's at night and it's on fire. And they come through the window at the front, which I think is probably a little jab at the fact there's a window. I mean, they did it in Star Trek Into Darkness as well, but hey, there's a window there, might as well break through it. And just that's a visual that we didn't get to see from Star Trek 3. I think could looked amazing if they'd actually had the budget to show the ship in pieces on the. I mean, that would have been. You didn't need it, but this is. I think that's a kind of interesting. Show us a thing we never got to see, and just. It's dead, Jim. I mean, it's pretty bad.
That's funny.
And it's firing up the saucer, just a great visual.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I really want to point out about this trailer is it has a lot of good character development moments where, McCoy and Spock are talking. And then actually right before the fisheye shot of the Enterprise, you got the shot of the three of them lined up. I mean, the trifecta from Star Trek. That was beautifully done.
Yep.
And where McCoy says, you sure you want to go back out there?
It feels like they're going to play on the core part of that, but also give all the other characters important parts of the story, which is how it should be. It's kind of combining the Star Trek Voyage Home approach and also the Star Trek 5 approach, giving everyone important things to do. And that's actually probably, we've not seen that. That's probably the best thing they could have done.
Yeah, and Star Trek's very character-driven, so exactly. To do that was a great thing for the fans.
And then you got the saucer actually flying down burning to a T. That I think that could be not necessarily equally, but very powerful imagery in the film. And for those obviously who love these films, it won't be as much obviously because it's not so much a character, but just to see it, the modern day equivalent, that's going to be powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get
again though, like this kind of goes back to what happened with Star Trek 2, where they made it about Khan. So Star Trek 3, the Enterprise gets destroyed and is crashing into the atmosphere. Like, do you need to really connect all these movies to each of the original movies that way, in the correct order? Because that kind of bugs me in a way. Like, do something original. Like,
yeah, but the difference with this though is that the Star Trek 3, when the other Star Trek 3, real Star Trek 3, when Enterprise got destroyed, that was at the end of the movie. Didn't expect it. And then there's this very little act at the end of it. This conclusion. You know, it's almost the epilogue to the story. You know, whereas this, because they're showing it so dramatically, I get the feeling the Enterprise will be destroyed in the first half an hour. So that's not important to the story as the tale unfolds. It's just gonna be the reason to get them on the planet, to get them to the thing. So it's just part of the, you know, it's part of the mythos, the tapestry. It's not this end moment. It's not this final moment. It's in fact setting up something. So I think it's even more valid because it's let's change the ball game. Let's revolutionize how the feel of the movie's going to be. You know, we don't have the ship to go back to. We don't have this crew together. I think it's so different that it's going to work beautifully from how this trailer feels.
But I agree. But I don't think you need to like reference each original movie, you know, in each of your
But this
movies.
isn't though. That's the point. It's not. It's different. Just because it's 3 and 3.
I know, but it's the same kind of visual imagery with it coming into the atmosphere. That's all I'm trying to say. I mean,
sure, it'll just be more dynamic and firebally and blowy uppy and
lens flare. No, just kidding.
actually, I think I only saw one lens flare as well. But speaking of nothing to do with lens flares, straight after that shot we get the Franklin zooming towards the space station, which I gotta say, great design for a space station.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's different but makes sense and interesting. I mean, you probably would want to see this. Well, it's interesting. It's not very Star Trekky because you'd have like force fields, but it kind of is with the silvery.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, Dyson Sphere tech. I mean, hey, maybe they found a Dyson Sphere and said, "Hey, let's make a ball," and then, or Death Star tech. Let's make a ball again. I don't know.
I think that last one's probably more likely.
But visually, great design.
Yeah. And then the next shot, you see the Franklin like really. I don't think they're plowing through the same swarm that they destroyed the Enterprise.
Well, they're leaving the planet, aren't they? There.
Yeah. Well,
getting
yeah,
out the blockade.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you feel about tying in the NX? Because you know it's probably the NX class as far as we've heard.
Well,
the Franklin.
When we did certainly say that as part of our Franklin episode when we looked at the shapes, the imagery, and I think we certainly speculated the lack of secondary hull, all these things that seem to be basically what we said. I mean that back looks exactly as sort of I envisioned it from the episode discussion we had. I mean I think it's certainly a Lochnar design, but it happens to look like the NX. So they're just cleverly linking continuities to say this is just the NX 0.5 or the newest the most recent NX, which is now the oldest one of the oldest ships in the old fleet. But because it's the newest NX, it looks JJ-ish, but still more like the Kelvin-ish. But it's still JJ-verse, but it's still NX evolution.
All right, I think it's worth being said. I think it's worth being said here, though, because this is something I like to think, is that the JJ-verse came about in the same timeline, same universe as the NX crew and that kind of evolution of Federation tech.
Yeah,
whereas
absolutely.
the Prime timeline that I grew up with didn't have the NX because all the charts didn't have it, right? So
Or the
could
Enterprise
be that
B,
this is just,
I mean, that was a different movie.
But you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of like the way I see it developing. That it follows Archer and that kind of thing, but not necessarily the Prime's timeline.
Hey, that works too.
A lot of people out there agree with me. So
sure. I mean, like I say, it's just stylistically, it's a Lochnar, but stylistically it has elements of the NX. That's probably why they dual picked it. And it looks good. I mean, it looks like a fast ship, and the scale's still a problem, but I don't think it will be, so that's fine.
I actually really like the Franklin design from
Yeah,
what we've seen so far. So
yeah,
I
and it
have
looks
no
good
complaints
from
with
the
that.
bum, from the aft. All good.
From the bum.
From and I like that it looks like that's going to be a big part of it. Like it's their rescue ship. It's their coming from the ashes.
I'm curious to know why that ship was on the planet's surface
Oh,
though, because one of the last shots is it zooming off the surface out and straight up, right? So
and we
what
see
happened there? Is that crew still on the planet? Is because we see a bunch of Starfleet officers being kind of herded or used as slaves, whatever. Could it be that there's an older crew there as well that helps them out, or is it just the Enterprise?
And we see the internal space, and while or the set, and while it's certainly rugged, every LCARS is functional. It doesn't look damaged by any stretch. I mean, old but not damaged. So maybe they landed there as I mean, it's clearly a scout-ish style vessel. So maybe they landed there to explore Strange New World, and then these alien race took them out because it went into their territory, as they were saying in one of the earlier trailers. You came to our space, and then it's just been left there. There's probably a reason.
Well,
or it's a trap.
It's
been left there to help them get off, so that they can then be killed at the starbase place.
It's a trap. Anyway, going back to that scene with Scotty with the power cables, I think that's going to be him on the Franklin. Hooking getting the Franklin up and running. Just the way he edited it, way early on there. But yeah. I love those little moments. Like that's something that Scotty from TOS would do. It's like, poof.
I think if I was making a guesstimation now, I'd say within half an hour the Enterprise is destroyed, and then you have an hour on the Franklin as the primary, and then you have another 25 minutes on the space station where it's just parked, and then reveal of new ship. So it's primarily the Franklin. That's our, that's our saving grace, which I'm absolutely fine with.
I'm also fine with that. The whole ending of it, I don't know. He likes that scene. I thought that was another great character moment.
It was funny.
So
it's genuinely funny.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's going to be a good scene, and yeah, it says a lot.
Yeah.
And then it blasts away and looks very good. Yeah, that basically. I think that's all the things I want to talk about. Let's go through my pictures.
That's about it for me. But I did want to mention one other thing. I've been watching a few that big Beyond, Star Trek Beyond. What would you call it?
Fan event is I think what they're calling it.
Yeah. I've seen some vlogs from there. One in particular from the Trekkie girls, where they were talking about going down one of the Enterprise corridors, and some of the signage and other things said 1701A. So looks like we have something new to look forward to at the end of the movie. A new Enterprise design, perhaps.
Now, see, do you think, as you said a few seconds ago, do you think that's very much, you're stealing Star Trek 3, or are you just happy to see the next evolution? So it would follow.
I'm just happy to see the next evolution. We didn't get Enterprise A until Star Trek 4, so hopefully they don't wait until the next movie to see a new ship. I'd like to see it at the end of this movie.
But it's a very interesting idea, because if it is an A, then it'll probably follow closer. So I mean, this if you look at this in terms of design, the white's very much it's closer to the TOS Connie somewhat. So if you imagine, I mean, just with the circle thing, your more organic nature, you can imagine if they make an A, put it one step back to the refit, make these things maybe square, fix the proportions a bit. I mean, you could make this shape much closer to the A, but still much more detailed, much more advanced, give it more nerdies, give it more things the reflectors I'm totally fine with. You could probably do a lot with that. And then suddenly you've got this because the A obviously feels far more advanced than the Connie. You can push that forward, but still make it closer, so actually bridge the universes even more. And then suddenly you've got and then make the bridge a lot more like that. And suddenly you've got Star Trek 4, you've got a much closer medium, but you've had the evolution. You've gone from maybe the era, because if there's another 5 years, you've gone maybe the JJ verse has dealt with the Narada, has dealt with this period of war, maybe, and obviously I don't get the sense this is a war film. in the sense, they're
No.
trying to build up the Klingon. That was a big thing. In this film, they're off doing their thing. I think that conflict might have been not necessarily put to bed, but they clearly haven't had 10 years of devastating, or 5 years devastating war here. So maybe it's close to a time of peace. Everything can be more scientific now, pushing away from the bigger, the badder ships, that we saw, pushing a bit closer to our conventional Trek, and then just have a nice in between.
Well,
And then it's like, well, this evolution was, it took these movies to bring us back to a path closer to the prime timeline, because there's lots of films, lots of movies where it says that time always brings you back to the event that was going to happen, even if you go back and try and change things. I mean, Legends of Tomorrow and other things, they say let's time wiggles its way back, and in the grand scheme of things, look at the 250 years of history of Star Trek. But basically just Kirk's lifetime, what the 30 years, 25 years, that's a ripple. So maybe it takes 40, 50 years for it to then go back close to TNG, and then by the time we get to Voyager, maybe Voyager's basically the same, because it's time is sort of starting to fix itself. I don't know.
Interesting, but meh. I was going to say, we don't know how much time has passed since the last movie. They're still young, so it's still the TOS era. So we got to assume that, the next evolution for ships might look very much refitty, but at the same time, I'm kind of hoping for a phase 2 kind of thing where it looks similar, but with enhancements that make it the next.
Well, I don't know what you.
The next step, but not necessarily as far as the motion picture era.
Well, the problem with that is there's so many details of this design are the refit. So many are already. There's really very little you can do apart from changing the cells, make them closer, and then why would you take the 0.5 step of just shrinking them, making them more TOS-y? Why not make it a bit more refitted? Because then it's just a big visual change. I don't know what else they would change, honestly, without radically redesigning or adding other functionality. I have no idea. Will they really?
They need back swept pylons. First of all, they need to do that to improve that look. If that ship right now had pylons that swept back like the refit, it would already be a huge improvement on that design. So to do that and to just add nicer, newer style engines and actually not even change that much more. I'm happy with those kind of changes.
But that's an interesting idea then. Like, this already is a very advanced looking ship. Again, this area is really the only thing we have a problem with, really. How can they refit and make a new one without compromising what makes it the JJ verse? Because that's the aesthetic. They shouldn't mess up their own aesthetic per se.
I have a very strange feeling that they're going to mess it up and go more TNG with it, and that which with the revolution of technology in this universe, that kind of makes sense. However, I don't know if I'd be completely happy with that. I need to see the finished ship before I can really give a judgment call on that.
That I really like. That would be a great idea. Make this shape, but give it the blue sides, the red basards. Give it a much more maybe sovereignty-ish. Like, pull it back, but more closer to that. So you keep. I'm
sure the JJ version would have blue basards and red along the side.
No, they'd keep that. They'd fix that. They'd make it right. Like, I'd be really interested to see a proper big budget Connie, but with that TNG feel, because I apart from Star Trek Online, and we've said in episode it mostly works, but there's some things would change. I could be totally by that. It would look more advanced. I think they could add more details.
I'm thinking
that'd be interesting.
You're right mentioning. I think you're right mentioning Star Trek Online, because I think the Star Trek Online Connie or refit Connie, I think if they come up with something similar to that, I'd actually be kind of happy.
Going away from the TOS aesthetic, which they haven't necessarily done right, and being able to push it forward but keeping the same shape, because that's probably the one thing they don't want to change, the shape. But I love that. It's a great idea. I think they could do a lot with that.
The only other thing I'd have a problem with is the fact that they did designate it the 1701A, because there's a reason that in the Prime universe they got that designation. It's the only ship that has that the code the A after the registry number, because it survived its 5-year mission and the exploits of Captain Kirk and crew, blah blah blah. They got this because of saving Earth, and then it became the flagship of the Federation.
Yeah, but that's,
it wasn't necessarily the flagship of the Federation during the TOS run, because it was the 12 Connies, and it was just one of them.
Yeah, but I didn't even know that bit of continuity, so I wouldn't have any. Just make it an A. Like, the Defiant should have been Defiant A. There's ships that should have been A. Dauntless A, that doesn't count, but I'm just putting it out there.
Just have so many registry numbers with like G and
Well,
S after them because
but
so many got destroyed.
if you think maybe this is right at the end of their 5-year mission, maybe this is maybe this is an old ship. If they're actually out in deep space, then it would make sense that this design would become antiquated. They'd need the full refit, and therefore it gets destroyed. It just makes sense to give them a brand new one, and that'd be great.
Now that you said that, it could be that that's the case. Like I said, we don't know how much time's elapsed. It could be the end of the 5-year mission. They've just returned home and McCoy's like, you really want to go back out there? Maybe they've fixed the ship up a little bit. Maybe they fix it up a little bit and they have one mission to go on or something. They go on and it gets destroyed. And it could be the end of the 5-year mission already. They could have done 5 years of exploration by this point. We don't know.
Or they're maybe like 4.5 years and then Starfleet calls them back because they need the best captain to go out and do a proper mission. So it's like they have had years of exploration.
It's the only ship in the quadrant.
But no, they brought it back to the quadrant to be the only proper ship in the quadrant.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. But I think
there's so many possibilities and so many unanswered questions as of right now that, we need to wait a little bit more before we can come up with our final decisions.
But that gets me really excited now to see a variant of this, but with those aesthetics re-brought back in, and just make it feel more interesting. And I mean, then at that point, you know how the back engine parts come up and then do stuff. Can you imagine if the warp nacelles, there's other parts that, because they're already blue, they're already like lit up as other bits that come out to let out plasma or something like. Then those bits of activity, I'm absolutely fine with. It just doesn't work as well with this necessarily.
Speaking of activity, I mean, if the ship's in impulse drive, have the nacelles be standard nacelle. When it goes to warp, panels move up, and all of a sudden the blue glow lights up, and then they go to warp. If
That's
they have
what Andrew
something articulating, if they have something that articulates like that, I'd love that. I'm not happy with the way it does it now before it goes to warp because the TOS. Well,
that's the thing. Again, another thing for us fans of previous continuity. This was meant to be even though it's not called Constitution per se. Once you move one step ahead again to your own universe, then do whatever the hell you want with it.
Exactly.
Now you've made your own thing, as long as you make sure. Well, you don't even need to respect the continuity per se. Make your own interesting design, but if you want to do that, that'd be absolutely cool.
And I've been saying all along, that's what I want JJ to do: is do his own thing, do something unique, not a rehash of everything we've seen before. Please do your own thing. Please do something unique. I'd be down for watching that. When you rehash something that's old and you don't do it quite right, people get really nitpicky, and it just creates a lot of back and forth in this fan community, which is harmful to the community.
But anyway, I'm excited for this new film. This trailer has made me gone from being... I think this trailer, for me, has made it a case of... It's no longer just a film that's coming out. It's now a Star Trek movie. I'm excited, even more excited to look at the tech of. Because I'm thinking ahead to the future of, oh, excellent, let's take this stuff apart. Let's look at it. Let's do our classic treatment. And have fun with it. As opposed to being... It's the third JJ film... It'll be a film, which is a really nice perspective to be on. It's a nice feeling.
And having a new director, I'm looking forward to seeing how he approaches this because we're used to his Fast and Furious films, and yes, this has a lot of action, but from based on this new trailer, it looks like he kind of understands the world of Star Trek a little bit, and I think that's going to be great to see a new take on it. So
and it's worth saying, I do like the Fast and Furious films, and they have some great character moments. They really do. Like, it's not just...
Very unbelievable moments, though, as well.
Oh, sure. But you believe them because it's Fast and Furious. No, I think that those movies are surprisingly deep. I mean, the good ones are surprisingly deep. There's some, they're good movies, and that's how they went from being a dead franchise with a very small budget to suddenly being this massive franchise again. That was because they won it over again. Anyway, we're going along on this one, but any closing thoughts on this brand new trailer?
Just as I've said, I'm excited to see it now. I'm looking forward to the release date so I can get in the theater and actually know what's going on story-wise and be able to give you guys my honest opinion on everything, the new ship, if there is one, the storyline, everything. Just excited.
Sure you'll probably want me also to do a review. I've never done a review on this channel, but it's a Star Trek movie. That's probably worth doing as well.
Well, I think to be fair, we're going to do a review together, a podcast together after we've seen the movie, so... Yes. They can look forward to that. Yes. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the trailer. Like I said, it's a very exciting time for Star Trek right now, so I was blown away by it. And thank you for tuning in and watching us talk and speculate. Hopefully, some of our thoughts will come to fruition in the new film. So until next time, this is Captain Foley.
And Commander Coggins.
Signing off. See you guys beyond.